Marilyn Manson is not a subject many people understand. To many, both the eponymous frontman and the band itself is just shock rock, relics of the 90s. They see the music as just an offensive pile of garbage, not to say anything, but just to anger people and appeal to angsty teenagers. Others see Marilyn Manson as a washed up rocker, fat and ugly, without knowing anything about his life. Many would consider him overly angsty, likely not knowing about his abusive childhood, molestation, or the fact that, although it's not visible like most, he's an Agent Orange baby. However, his personal life is not the subject of this post. No, this post is about the factory, his and his former band member, Johnny Five's, instrumental album, an album that was never released. Marilyn Manson's work has sounded like creepypasta before. The EP Smells Like Children had two spoken word tracks removed and replaced, as they cannot get the people in them to sign waivers. These tracks are known as Abuse, and it contains two parts. There is pain involved and Confessions. Confessions is infamous for being especially dark, with the person Manson is interviewing confessing to molesting her young cousin. These tracks were supposed to be removed, but mysteriously, about 1,000 copies of Smells Like Children instead had the original track listing. Thus, these tracks can be found on the internet with ease. However, the factory is an enigma. Some claim it's his work on the Resident Evil soundtrack. This is wrong. Much like the original soundtrack to the film From Hell, also by him, it's apparently lost. But these are only two of three missing albums. In 2005, a new era had begun, the celebritarian era. However, it was aborted, and the album was also never released. These three albums, The Factory, From Hell, and the untitled Celebritarian album, are in the ranks of the Hollywood Book and Marilyn Manson fan mysteries. While From Hell and the Celebritarian album would have been released under Interscope label, The Factory would have been released under Trent Reznor's Nothing Records. So imagine my shock when I checked the Seed Zero account on Pirate Bay and saw The Factory uploaded. Seed Zero is Trent Reznor's plausible deniability way of leaking things. In the description, he said that while it was never released due to the request of John and Manson, he figured that rather than letting Interscope cash in on it one day, he'd set it free. I had realized it had only been posted mere moments before I saw it, and greedily downloaded it. I waited for the download to finish, and then refreshed the page to see if anyone commented. Instead, it had already been taken down. I blinked, wondering why Trent went so quickly back on what he said. Opening it up, I noticed the album and booklet art was there, scanned for the view's consumption. The cover was nothing special, with Marilyn Manson written on it in the Hollywood font. The background was black and brown, just like Hollywood. This all made sense, since this album was supposed to be part of that same era. However, rather than a jawless Manson, there was a factory with three smoke towers. It was a brick structure, the bricks crumbling, the windows shattered, sometimes boarded up. It was vandalized, the boarded up door had a strange symbol on it. A less obsessed fan wouldn't figure it out. But it was another occultic symbol, just like the Antichrist Superstar era. Of course, I wanted to see the rest of the art. It focused on John Five and Marilyn Manson, as this was solely their own side project. It was a realistic painting of Manson as JFK, an idea that was used several times in the past. John Five was the sprinting Secret Service agent he was in Coma White, as well as the Fool tarot card from Hollywood. Unlike Coma White, however, there was no death parade, no Jack Yo, in fact, nobody else. Manson was far more decayed, an eye hanging out, missing his jaw, as if it rotted off. John Five was holding the skull fragment, his makeup streaked with tears, his suit getting stained with white makeup. His blonde hair looked unwashed and raggedy, rather than the well cared for look he usually had. All in all, the art was brilliant. It was classic Manson stuff. So I listened to the album. It was what I expected. The guitars were clearly more controlled by John Five, as the sound was quite similar to his own works, but with obvious touches of Manson, including several acoustic tracks. One song opened with the same guitar from Pistol Whipped, a song released in 2012, but was from 2000. Once again, Manson recycled his tossed out work. By the time I was done, I decided to check Facebook. When I opened it, I saw a message from a person named The Factory. It told me Trent was not supposed to upload the album, and that it had been taken care of. I was warned that I was not to upload or spread the album, and that I was the only person that had downloaded it, so they would know it was me. I figured Manson was behind the account and decided to obey his wishes because angering your idol doesn't make much sense. I hid it from Spotify so that it would never accidentally appear in my recently listened to, and made sure to only listen to it on VLC Media Player and my MP3 player, which I did several times daily. A few days later, I got home and it was gone from my computer. I was upset, shaken. Either someone hacked my computer or broke into my house and deleted the files. The damp spots on my carpet from someone walking in the snow then inside proved it was the latter. I thought to myself, glad that whoever was behind the break-in didn't know it was on my MP3 player, but decided not to call the police, as I wouldn't be able to prove anything. There was no sign of forced entry, and a damp carpet is hardly evidence. If I called, they'd assume I was either high or mad. Sitting down, I thought to myself, wondering why anyone would be so interested in suppressing the album. It wasn't like there hadn't been many leaks in the past. It wasn't career-destroying work. In fact, it was quite good. I hadn't listened to much else besides The Factory recently. Frustrated, I decided to message The Factory, asking why he broke in and deleted off my computer, but the account was deleted. I swore in anger and decided to listen to the album again, putting in my earbuds and relaxing as I browsed the internet. I decided to make a few backups on my various external memory devices, a few CDs stashed in odd places, and of course, kept my MP3 player on me at all times. I didn't want to ever lose The Factory. Sometimes I go to bed listening to it, just letting the songs, already familiar, wash over me and lull me to sleep. Never had any nightmares, just pleasant dreams. I was dying to talk about the album, but I didn't want to anger anyone with access to my locked home, so I kept quiet. It was a beauty, a perfect comfort for my loneliness. As I lost friends, I listened more. For the longest time, I believed instrumentals were lesser than musical vocals, as instrumentals couldn't say anything. But as I listened more and more, I could feel the emotion put into every note, every beat of a drum, every pluck of a guitar string. The factory had become my life, and I had begun to live in the factory. While listening one day, I passed out, a combination of dehydration, lack of sleep, and malnutrition. I woke up in a white room to a beeping sound, which I realized was my own heart rate. I could feel the tubes coming out of my arm, the needles piercing my arms, nourishing me. I shuddered and peeled my eyes open. I was in a hospital. Still extremely exhausted, I fell asleep again. When I awoke, a man interviewed me. About what, I couldn't remember. The next few days were a blur, but I finally was able to find out what was going on. I asked the man who had returned what happened. He told me that I was found nearly dead, listening to static. He searched my home and found CDs and memory sticks just filled with tracks of static, each with unique names and blank pictures. He thinks I had some kind of psychotic break, that I made up the songs and images based off things I had seen and listened to before. I'm still keeping my word. Nobody else has ever heard or seen the factory.